Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I have something truly beyond special to share with you guys. I have tried to start this video like 10 times, and each time I try to create the perfect dramatic introduction. And I've realized the best way to start this video is simply to open this up and let you guys really take it in. And then we can talk about it afterwards, because there are a lot of details. Yeah, let's go ahead and open this up. This is obviously a Sharp by Design. Very special and extremely rare, to put it mildly. What we have is an Arch Nemesis. This particular Arch Nemesis has a polished, contoured, textured zirconium frame. So beautiful. Zircotite inlays on both sides. Those are also textured. It's also a zirconium frame lock with a steel lock bar insert, which is pretty wild. We'll get back to that. Probably the most interesting feature of this knife is the blade. The blade has been milled. It has a beautiful milled pattern. That's a double hollow ground blade with mirror edges. Absolutely perfect in every way. Many of you will recognize this knife. You'll say, didn't you do a video on that? You're right, I did. In fact, I will link that video because that's like a full overview and showcase, which is not really what I'm doing today. I'll link that video down in the description. It's going to be much longer, probably some more information, but there is information here about this knife that I didn't know, that I didn't include in that video. But to get right to the point, this was loaned to me so that I could do a video on it, much like a lot of other stuff that Kyle has sent to me over the years so that I could, showcase to you guys. This stuff always goes back to Kyle. This knife in particular, he knew that I was a huge fan of the Arch Nemesis, which is the knife that I think Brian Nadeau is most known for. It's one of the only knives in his line that he hasn't done like a production collab with Rarity, right? A lot of people think all Sharp by Design knives are made by Rarity in China. No. There's actually quite a few that he only makes in-house on his own. The Arch Nemesis, in my opinion, is definitely the most striking. That's a very difficult knife to get a hold of. My wife had one made for me for our 5-year anniversary, and it will always be the crown jewel of my collection. Always. But that knife it's not easy to get your hands on one. This is on an entirely different level. And I remember Kyle sending me the email about this guy saying, hey, I know you're really into the Arch Nemesis. I've got a really special one. And so I was really excited to take a look. But I remember opening this thing up and not basically just shutting down. My entire brain just went offline. The gloves are to keep the fingerprints off of the zirconium because it's a fingerprint magnet for sure. I remember being so jealous. This was such a hard knife for me to ship. I just wanted to hang on to it, but I had to ship it back, I had to say goodbye. And I thought, man, it was really cool to get to experience that knife. I'll never own something like that. Even as a content creator who, people think my reach is infinite. There are definitely things that I just cannot get. Kyle, a lot of you actually remember the live stream because I freaked out. It was live. He offered to sell this to me live in chat, and I just totally lost it. I couldn't believe that he would give me that opportunity. And if you're new to the knife world or if you're new to stuff like this is going to blow your mind. But a knife like this, number one, an Arch Nemesis that goes up, any Arch Nemesis that goes up on the secondary market will usually sell in seconds. There's unbelievable demand for stuff like that. This one is ridiculously rare. Kyle probably could have started an unbelievably aggressive bidding war, but he didn't do that. He offered to sell it directly to me for a fair price. Kyle, I am so honored that you would do that. Thank you so much. I think the price that he wanted was very fair. and I am just so happy. You put the biggest smile on my face, man. I just never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would ever own something like this. So this has a few unique elements here. If you're not familiar with Sharp by Design knives, I'll send you, I'll link his website. But again, if you're new, don't expect him to have the Arch Nemesis model lying around. It's just not going to be the case here. But this milled blade, Kyle and I talked about this. I remember the first time I saw a picture of one, and I don't know if it was this one in particular or if it was a different one. But it's hard to find pictures of the milled blades on the internet, like specifically of this knife. If you Google it, you'll probably find a picture of this knife, my thumbnail of this knife, right? If you Google Sharp by Design Arch Nemesis or Sharp by Design Arch Nemesis milled blade, you'll probably see this one. And the reason is because not many were made, and he doesn't make them like this anymore. This pattern, which it's obviously, it's very extensive, the amount of work that's on this blade. The reason he doesn't do them anymore is because I guess they destroy bits. It's incredibly time consuming, and it's so hard on the machines. And apparently it's also very, very frustrating. So I asked Kyle, I said, how many of these special milled blades on the Arch Nemesis model are actually out there in the wild? And Kyle said, I don't know, maybe 6. So I messaged Brian Nadeau directly, and I said, how many of these did you do? And at first he said, I don't know, 2 or 3, maybe. He said, my memory may not be serving me correctly, but he said, it's not many. So I don't know what the other ones look like or where they are or who owns them. But as far as the information that I have goes, there are between 2 and 6 of them in existence. And this is one of them. So I'm just beside myself to be able to own this. And in a configuration that I think I would ask for specifically if I could, right? If I right now, if I messaged Brian Nadeau, who's a really nice guy, I really enjoy talking with him. He's been super kind to the channel. Really, really great, right? If I messaged him, I said, hey, can you make me a super special, unique, metal complex Sharp by Design Arch Nemesis? He would laugh in my face and tell me no. And that's completely understandable. It's completely understandable. He's got a lot of things going on. He's an incredible knife maker, knife designer, super busy. He's got a lot of projects, right? But if I asked, if I could, if he said yes, I think I would actually order it exactly like this. I don't think that I would change a single thing. That was part of what was so mind-blowing when Kyle sent this to me for me to showcase to everybody, was how absolutely I could not have dreamed up a better one. You might notice the pivot looks different than some other Arch Nemesis knives. And I talked with Lev on the Knife Nuts podcast about this, who's very close with Brian Nadeau. I said, what's the deal with the different looking pivot? And he said, that's reserved for special versions of that knife, right? I mean, the base version of the knife is already that's all. The base version of the knife is what I own, and that is absolutely the penultimate knife in my collection. And it has the basic pivot. This has the special upgraded pivot, right? So for it to be that tier and have the milled blade and be a very odd zirconium frame lock, that is not something that we see very often. Zirconium is not a material that's incredibly practical when it comes to a pocket knife, but I feel like it goes without saying that this is a collector's item. Could it be used? Could you take it out and use it? Oh yeah, you totally could. It's not delicate or anything like that. But this was 100% created with the enthusiast in mind. There was no part of this was we should market this to the general user crowd, right? This was built as a collector's piece. But a zirconium frame lock is really weird. Zirconium is really heavy. It's plenty durable, right? And I think it's pretty hard to scratch. You don't generally see it as a frame lock material because titanium just makes a lot more sense. I think titanium is a bit more forgiving. It's also lighter weight, and it's also super strong. I mean, maybe it scratches a little easier, but who cares? Zirconium is used when you really want, a contrast or a finish, like a shiny black finish to contrast with something else. And it's also a very expensive material, for sure. So having these elements all together, the milled blade, the special pivot, the zirconium Damascus inlays that are also textured. Having that with the weirdness of it being a zirconium frame lock with a lock bar insert is just so cool, man. It is so cool. A nice little touch here that he did is having the fade ano inside of the pocket clip to match the scales behind it. It almost looks like you're looking directly through the pivot onto the surface of the zircotai behind it, but it's not the case. I just love that. I think that is such a cool little detail. Other details of this knife that I think are great. I love the 3 holes. My Arch Nemesis does not have those 3 holes in the fuller. I also love the fact that this milling pattern has some type of polishing applied to the top of it. I cannot imagine how much work went into the blade alone. I mean, there's so many elements here that are just mind-blowing. Like thinking about what I know about the cost of creating stuff or working with these materials. This isn't flat. It's not a flat piece of titanium. It's literally a contoured, micro-textured, huge chunks of zirconium, right? And it's not like they're finished lazily. I mean, look at the texturing on this. This is bizarre. The machines required to shape this material into what it is, right? The cost of milling that pattern on the blade. I always talk about how, materials are one element. There are certainly materials that are more expensive than other materials, but what you do, the processes involved with shaping those materials into their final form can be dramatically more expensive. So this is a perfect example of, people saying why or who would ever. And Brian Nadeau saying, I will. Never mind the why, but I will. And the end result is something that is, I think, almost universally understood as mind-blowing. Not everybody's going to like this aesthetic. In fact, there are plenty of people out there who tell me, I like your plain one a lot better than that one. That's perfectly fine. That's just aesthetic tastes are different. But I think most people can understand why something like this, regardless of the fact that it is, in its base form, a cutting tool, they can understand why something like this is going to be expensive, right? Why something like this is going to be, really celebrated. The average person cannot create this. In fact, I would say that very, very skilled knife makers can't replicate Brian Nadeau's work. Even though there are machine elements here, this is clearly the result of somebody who is a master level craftsman. There are so many tiny details about this knife that are just absurd. It's perfection beyond perfection. I love how the sides, or I guess the flats of the flipper tab, are machined, and then the bevels and the top of the flipper is mirror polished. I mean, even in there behind where the cutting edge starts, right here, I guess you'd call that the sharpening joint. That area is mirror polished. Look at where the flat of the blade transitions to the milling pattern. These are all areas where so many companies that are hailed as like wowzers, so just absolutely spectacular and sticklers for quality and execution. So many areas on this knife have room for error. I can't imagine trying to create something like I can't imagine. Even with the machine doing a lot of it, you still have so much room for error or sloppiness or things to not be perfectly symmetrical, right? Which, by the way, this is craziness, guys. It's absolutely crazy. Just when I think like a line is off or something like that, I turn it and let the light reflect off of a different bevel or angle, and I think, holy moly, it's actually absolutely perfect. It's ridiculous. I I'm just blown away by this. This is spectacular. It obviously has all of the, all the special Sharp by Design stuff. The flipper tab being, this shape, the body. Like there's plenty of folding daggers out there. And some of them are a lot better than others. But if you're like me, you find a little bit of aesthetic goofiness to a lot of them. I remember being really excited that Rick Hinderer had that folding, was it the Maximus? I was really excited about that, but it just ended up being kind of goofy. And a lot of other folding daggers that I've seen, custom and production, they all just have been kind of goofy. This one, it's his execution for sure. It's his styling, but there's just some really weird X Factor wizardry that's going on here that makes this thing truly spectacular. The flipping action is unreal. It's even better than the Arch Nemesis that I have. I have to assume that that's partially the end result of, Kyle having flipped this a bajillion times. It is so unbelievably smooth. It's ridiculous. It's obviously completely and totally solid. The centering on this is perfect. I remember, looking this over when I had it, however long ago, right? I can't remember how long or how old that that video is, but this knife is just so perfect in every way. I have no idea how often he makes the Arch Nemesis model. For a while there, I heard that he was discontinuing it, but then he made a bunch for Blade Show. In fact, he made one of the most spectacular ones I've ever seen. He showcased it on Instagram with that beautiful the art that was on the scale, the beautiful blade. These knives come in, Damasteel and Damacore. They come in, blasted blades. They come in, I guess, satin finished blades too. There's a lot of different things. There's even some other sort of chevron milling that he does, obviously much less intense than something like this. But there are tons of them. Tons of different variations, I should say. I would venture to guess there are somewhere around 100 Arch Nemesis knives total in the wild. I don't know that for sure. I seem to remember somebody telling me that at one point. It may have been Levon. But they're all going to be difficult to get. And getting one made to your exact specifications, as far as I understand, is not easy. So if you're looking at this and thinking, I would, I can pay for it, I'd really like to check one out. The best way is to go to his Instagram and follow him, and just, watch and see what he's got going on and, when he's going to create more. But there's just no way to guarantee it. And I figured that out a long time ago and just accepted it, right? Some things are just not super easy to get. This opportunity presented itself through, a friendship, somebody who has been watching the channel, Kyle, for years now and has been super kind, sending me things. And it's just a really, really nice guy. So when he offered this, obviously I had to say yes. But I wanted to share this with you guys and share everything, that I knew about it. But I don't know that there's really a whole lot more to say. This will remain in my collection forever. I will never sell this. I'll never flip it. It's worth much more to me than money. Truly spectacular, an iconic piece, a very special version of an iconic piece. And for me in particular, this is a dream of dreams. This is what I always imagined was at the top of the ladder, right? Not to say that the ladder doesn't go on for certain people, but if this whole knife journey ended for me right now, and this was the final acquisition, right? I think I'd be happy with that. I think I'd be okay with that. Thank you so much for being a part of this channel, being a part of this journey with me. I'm not saying goodbye. It sounded like I was signing off forever. No, you guys are stuck with me. I'm going to be here for a long time. But really, I wouldn't be in this position to meet people like Kyle if it weren't for people like you guys. People like you guys who come and enjoy this stuff with me, chat with me, argue with me. watch my channel, subscribe, not subscribe, whatever. If you're here, it's people like you. Thank you so much for being a part of this with me. This I'm just feeling so much joy right now. My giveaway is coming up, and I'm gonna make sure and put some really, really amazing knives in the hands of people who have supported this channel and been a part of this with me for a long time. I cannot wait to say thank you to you guys. I can't give a knife to everybody, but I can definitely give away some awesome stuff. So thank you to Kyle for selling this to me. Thank you to Brian Nadeau for going above and beyond to create something that somebody like me could never comprehend. This is just unreal. And thanks to everybody. Just thanks to everybody for supporting this channel. This is just amazing. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex and on TikTok at _metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.